This lesson is about using quotation marks correctly. Nothing too tricky here, just got to remember a couple of important pieces of information. So as I'm sure you know, quotation marks show us when someone is speaking. So I've written out a short conversation here. We're going to identify the speaking and put quotation marks around them, and we're also going to place our punctuation like commas and periods in the right place. So, "It's so hot today," said John. Which words have been spoken? It's so hot today. So we open up with quotation marks, which are the almost like two apostrophes. "It's so hot today," said John. When does he finish speaking? After he says today. So then we put our closing quotations. Quotation marks always come with a partner. You never just open and then leave them unclosed. That's like opening a door, walking out, and never closing the door. They're always going to have a partner at the end of the quote. The only other thing we have to add to this sentence is a comma, and we're going to put a comma inside the quotation marks. "It's so hot today, comma, said John." So open quotation, "It's so hot today, comma, close quotation, said John." That comma is very important. We must have it there. "I replied, even hotter than yesterday." Now this time, the words that have been spoken are not at the beginning of the sentence. They actually come in the middle and at the end. So "I replied, comma," this time the comma comes before the opening quotation mark, "even hotter than yesterday." And we close the quotation with the end punctuation, the period, inside the quotation mark. Anytime there's punctuation that comes at the end of the quote, it is inside the quotation mark. You cannot put them on top of one another like this when you can't remember what to do. Just like in math, we can't write two numbers on top of one another. It doesn't mean anything. We can't do that. That's a no. So punctuation first, then the quotation mark. So "It's so hot today," said John. "I replied, even hotter than yesterday." "Yes," John nodded, "but the weekend should cool down." This time, John is speaking twice. We've put the attribution, who's speaking, in the middle. So he says, yes. So that needs an opening and a closing quotation mark. And it needs a comma. Remember, that comma goes inside the closing quotation mark. "Yes," John nodded, and then he speaks again. "But the weekend should cool down." And we've got to close that quote. We opened it, so let's close it. Remember, the period's going to go inside the quotation mark. So the quotation mark is at the end. So that's it. Nothing too tricky with quotation marks. Just remember that end punctuation is going to go inside the quotation mark. And if the attribution, the telling us who is speaking, comes first, we have to have a comma before we put the opening quotation mark.